So I finally watched the movie Kuso last weekend, and I have to say, there's something seriously wrong with Flying Lotus. For those of you who may not be familiar with Flying Lotus, well, he is a hip-hop producer based out of Los Angeles, California, and his work has been known to be very experimental and kind of abstract, but very interesting and engaging, and he's worked with a ton of popular artists, including Thom Yorke from Radiohead, Erykah Badu, Thundercat, Kendrick Lamar. He's even put out a couple of albums just on his own over the past 10 to 15 years. So his status has been on the rise pretty much this whole time. But it was in 2017 that he expanded into the realm of filmmaking with his directorial debut, Kuso, a film which revolves around a number of disparate individuals who have survived a massive earthquake in Los Angeles, only to be mutated in a variety of both similar and unique ways. When it hit the festival circuit, there were a number of people who apparently walked out of screenings, as well as critics going on to call it one of the grossest films ever made. And looking at it, I would say that that is probably a pretty high benchmark for Flying Lotus as far as what he expected the critical reaction to his film to be. And I have to admit that it took me some time to build up the courage to actually sit down and watch this film, even though I feel like my own tolerance for things being gross is fairly high. And as someone who's watched a fair number of Takashi Miike films, including Gozu, Audition, Visitor Q, any one of those is pretty high as far as its concentration of gross-out imagery, so I went into Kuso thinking that I might be prepared for what I was going to see. I wasn't, as I realized in the first couple of minutes of watching this film that free will is dangerous. I made a choice for myself when I decided to watch this film, and there's no one I have to blame except myself. Why did I do this to myself? Am I just a masochist? Are the empty holes in my life not gapingly large enough that I had to stretch them out by watching this film? I don't know where to begin, if I'm being perfectly honest, because the imagery in this film is some of the most disgusting and most nauseating that I've ever watched. It is trying to upset you and provoke you with these vignettes that they have, as far as, one featuring these large cancerous tumors that live out in a forest, and they have heads inside of them, but you don't get a sense of whether these are supposed to be human or not. But you do have a child who is going out to the forest and feeding them by taking animal feces and smearing it all over their faces. And I don't think it's feeding them so much as, sort of calming them down for whatever reason, I don't know. You've got all of these individuals that have these clusters of boils and masses on their face, and it's kind of disgusting because you kind of see a couple that are engaged in some pretty full-on tugging, kissing, and it doesn't matter to them that they've got these just super herpes on their lips. They're just dragging their tongue all over them, and there's just so much saliva and goop and everything. And then you also have one scene featuring George Clinton where he has some sort of giant insect creature living in his anus. I guess now's as good a time as any to go over some of the other collaborators that decided to take part in Kuso, because you do kind of get the sense for why this film is the way it is. You have people like Tim Heidecker of Tim and Eric fame, so that kind of gives you a little bit of a baseline for how weird things do get in this film. You also have British animator David Firth, who you might remember is responsible for the web series Salad Fingers. So again, it gives you a little bit of context for what you're experiencing when you watch Kuso, especially with all of these animated interludes that kind of break up the main vignettes that make up the film. And I have to say that there was one in particular that, to me, I liken as one of the most effed up Windows 95 screensavers in history. It's that disturbing. And it's not even disturbing just in terms of it trying to have a lot of grossness to it, but it's just enough of a distortion of reality to be unsettling. And then you have sort of this music that undercuts it and is very ominous, and you're just watching this play out for maybe like a solid 5 minutes, wondering where you're gonna go with it. And yeah, I can just tell you that, you know, the dancing baby from Ally McBeal has nothing on this, quite honestly. But we also have the aforementioned George Clinton, as many of us know from Parliament. We also have comedians Donnell Rawlings and Hannibal Buress voicing some interdimensional Muppet-like creatures. Then one interesting young lady known as the Buttress. And of course, you've also got Zach Fox in there, which I need to find out why the kids today really love them some Zach Fox. I need to find out why he's so popular. And we even have a cameo from adult film star Lexington Steele. Of course, I don't want to judge what this man decides to do with his downtime when he's not, you know, laying the pipe on camera, but this had to be the most random, useless cameo I've seen in a movie since Pamela Anderson did nothing but strut into the last scene of the film adaptation of Baywatch in slow motion and say absolutely nothing. Now, I'm sure there's more detail I could go into about this film without quote-unquote spoiling anything, but there's a good reason that I'm not. I want to preserve my sanity, which was already severely compromised by me watching this film. The less you know about the sentient neck boil that engages in a very graphic sexual act, the better. Understand that I have very few words left to describe the experience that is watching Kuso. Putrid, vomit-inducing, aggressively viscous. And yet part of me doesn't want to completely be dismissive of the film. I look at someone like Flying Lotus and acknowledge that he is an individual that kind of vibrates on a different wavelength compared to other folks, and sometimes you have to be bold to be noticed. Otherwise, why are you even trying to create something? Lord knows a lot of first-time directors try to manage their expectations and not let their eyes get bigger than their stomach. Most times a first-time director isn't trying to chase waterfalls, you know? They're sticking to the rivers and lakes that they're used to. Others are content to just traverse the valley and not try to reach some peak, you know, right off the bat. But damn it if Flying Lotus isn't shooting to climb Everest fresh out of the gate, and on some level you do kind of have to applaud him for that. And I'm willing to bet that if I told you that Kuso is a movie that you should probably not watch under the influence, I'm sure there are probably, I would say, 5 of you who would say, challenge accepted. And let me tell you something, children, 5 is too high of a number for such a challenge. Make no mistake, Kuso is not a film that you watch under the influence. Kuso is not a film that you watch sober. Kuso is not a film that you watch by yourself or with a group of unsuspecting friends, for whom the minority of which actually voted for Eat, Pray, Love as their weekly movie night pick. Kuso is a film that you watch strapped into a chair with your eyelids hooked open like Malcolm McDowell in A Clockwork Orange against your will, because you lost a bet to see if you could chug 4 2-liter bottles of Big Red Cola, only to evacuate a liter's worth through your nostrils with the force of a pressurized fire hose at around minute 3. Some of you, who I know personally, have already expressed interest in watching this film based on my initial reaction. Just know that should you follow through on this, I will be judging you with St. Elmo's fire. Hey guys, thanks for watching. As always, if you've got your own thoughts or opinions on Kuso, if you've actually seen it for yourselves, go ahead and leave a comment in the section below. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the notification bell, share this video with your friends and family, and if you'd like to keep up to date on more At Random videos, you can go ahead and click the subscribe button right over here.